Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Or if anyone is new, just clicked on the video for the first time, welcome. So, as the title suggests, we're talking wild camping, we're talking your first time. So, this video really is going to apply very much to people who are thinking about their first wild camp, or maybe have done a couple of smaller base camps and looking maybe for that next step up. As you can probably see in here, I'm on my way up high, and I'll explain where I am later on in the video. But first off, I wanted to start by talking about wild camping and what is wild camping, because we see it on groups a lot of debate. I very much fall in the category of someone who doesn't like to define it. So for me, wild camping, I simply define it as with outside the boundaries of a campsite and within the general principles of respecting the national trust areas, respecting your local paths and areas, cleaning up after yourself, no leave no trace, arrive late and leave early. Barring that, you know, it doesn't have to be so many metres or feet away from your car or so many high up. The only exceptions are if you happen to be in an area, like I'll use the example of the Lake District, where the rules they've kind of laid down is not to be camping next to lakes, and to be above 400 metres or the highest boundary line that typically a farmer would set, like a wall for example, you know, and that's their rules. Then you have other areas that have a very much strictly prohibited wild camping, particularly in England. However, I'm going to focus on Scotland, okay? Because Scotland, hey, well, we can do what we want within reason. So that's your starting point. Is wild camping areas for you is down to your imagination. It's down to what you feel like suits what you want for your camp, okay? So that's my first little tip. I'm going to continue on this journey, and we'll add a few more in before I start putting the tent up for the night, okay? Right, let's crack on. So I'm 500 metres up a loch called Loch Skeen, which I'm sure is very familiar to people who are used to my channel. But that's not what the point of today is. So I've got a pitch in mind where I'm going, which we'll talk about that in a wee bit, about how to sort your pitches, how to find your pitch, how to decide your locations, But let's talk about kit. So as you're probably seeing, you know, I was getting my backpack on. Backpack I've got attached to me is the 65 litre Osprey Rook. It's large, as in it's a large, long back. Given that I'm 6'2", I need a longer one. I have got a lighter bag, which you've probably seen if you've seen the Glencoe video, 50 litre one, and that'll be as small as I'll ever take on a wild camp. Reason being is I personally like to have the gear that I want to have, and a few extras, drink wise and things, and then also my camera gear. But when you go to decide your backpack, you've got to factor in a few things, and one of the first things you need to factor in is how fit and strong do you feel you're going to be. So a recommendation would be find an area, and I'll use this place as an example because this is quite a good haunt for me, you know. Find a place that you go on day walks with and hikes, a place where you'd feel comfortable, that you'd think you'd want to go camping. Time it with a day bag first, and give yourself an idea of how long it's going to take you with a day bag. You know, a 15 to 20 litre backpack with a lunch in it, maybe a wee camera or something, you know. And then that gives you an idea of how you can do it without a big pack. Then you need to go back into deciding what kind of big pack you want. People always say you can't really buy your big pack until you buy your tent, but really, as you tend to find, we have multiple tents, so I don't quite agree with that one. I do feel like you need to get your backpack kind of sorted first, so you know it's going to fit you and be comfortable. Personally, for most backpackers and most single night wild campers, somewhere in the region of 60 to 70 litre would suffice for majority, unless they're committed to going ultralight. So I'll start with that. A good way to prepare yourself for that one is try putting a small backpack together with 15 kilo and see how you're like with 10-15 minutes on a Stairmaster in the gym. And if you find that is killing your back, then then you'll have to think about it. But typically, this time of year on a winter camp, we're looking at upwards of about 15 kilo, maybe close to 20 for some people for their kit. So, backpack. I'm going to get cracking on because I've got a bit of peat to get through, and I'll deal with these at the top when I talk about putting my tent up, how to pitch my tent, and why I've picked the tent I've gone, and how you guys can pick your tents and your sleep systems. So here's my pitch for the night. It's a pitch I've been wanting to do for a while. Attempted it twice, once back in October with Evie and David, and then a couple of years before that, which I'll talk about later because it relates to finding your first ever wild camp spot, okay? But for me, first off, I'm going to start getting this tent put up, and I'll talk about what tent I've picked up today and what kind of decisions you should make when you're making your own tent pitch choices. So, tent of choice tonight is the Elixir 2 by MSR. Comes with a ground sheet, an inner and an outer, or a fly so to speak. Got a few reasons why I picked this one. First off, I'll talk about the most obvious one for me is that I've been out in my little red Simone tent a few times lately, so I wanted a change. Other than that, the Simone Makalu 2 typically is more of a 4-season tent, as in it has snow skirts and it's designed to take heavy winds. The MSR, they say it'll take 30 mile an hour, but I really want to test that one out. So this suits this camp tonight where the winds are not expected to get high at all. Maybe a wee gust, maybe 15 mile ago, gust here or there. Also gives me more room. And being a bigger guy, I do like to have more room. Which then brings me on to the tents you deciding your first wild camping tent. Yeah, you can spend a lot of money on tents, hundreds and thousands almost, on wild backing tents, but how do you know that's going to be for you until you actually try? This cost me just over £200 on a sale. I think it's back up to about £300 nowadays. I don't think any of my tents has cost any more than £400. I think my Simone was just under 400. And I also have my little white tent, my backpacking tent. It's like 140. So it's price wise from the UK. That's maybe you class that as average. It's not ridiculously cheap, but it's also not the most expensive. What you intend to use your tents for will vary, and it will also kind of dictate what you really should spend your money on. You know, I'm talking about my style of camping, which is very much I like to get up here. As you'll see throughout the video, you know, we'll talk a bit about why I do that, and one of the first things you're seeing already maybe is that when you go higher, your views, they're just epic, aren't they? They're just better. So if you can go higher, I'd always say get yourself higher. But then that comes back down to another point I kind of briefly talked about at the beginning, was fitness. You know, if you're going to want to go higher, are you going to be fit enough to manage that if something goes wrong and you need to bail? Because you're, you know, when we're talking about your bags, are you picking a bag that you can comfortably carry? I'll use comfortable lightly because it's not always that comfortable, but are you going to be okay with it, is what I mean. And tent as well. This tent weighs 2.2 kilo, which is by no means ultra lightweight, but given that it's designed as a 2-person tent, it's not that heavy. You know, you have some Hillenbergs that are over 4 kilo, for example, and they are that you take out in absolute all-weathers. So yeah, tent-wise, and as you can see while I'm talking, I'm just putting this tent up fairly quick. You know, it's a dry night, so I can use what we call this as a inner first, then outer. If it was going to be a wet night, would I pack this tent and pitch it up while it's raining? No, I wouldn't, because you're likely going to get your inner wet. So that's something else to factor in about going out. I'd also say if you're new to wild camping, to get the best experience out of it, do you really want to be going out in the wet? And personally, no. Look at the weather forecast. So you see, I've gone for this tent. It has a bit of mesh in it, as you can maybe see there. There's a bit of mesh at the top, bit of mesh at the sides, but it's also fairly solid. So it's not, I wouldn't class this anywhere near a 4-season tent. 4-season for me has to be fully enclosed. You want to be keeping your warmth in, and yeah, that does mean a little bit of condensation, but condensation comes at the reward of gaining more heat in your tent, which when it's well into the minuses, that's what you want. Speaking of minuses, tonight's temperatures potentially might get to -3, -4, so the tent will be its limit for me for what you'd be comfortable. However, my sleep system is what I'll be relying on, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. Once I finish putting the rest of this up, which is just going to be the fly. So I'm going to put the fly up now, get that done, and I'll talk to you more once we're all set up, and I can start giving you a bit more of the view of what we have up here in this absolutely stunning location tonight. Okay, so far we've talked about your bag, we've talked about tent. While I'm putting the guy ropes out, and I've talked briefly about tent, and let me just recap that one. I have a few different tents now. I started off with my first proper tent, I would say, would be my Vango Orion 200, which very much does the job. I like that tent. And then since then I've had a few other tents, and this is my preferred tent for if I want a bit of room or potentially having someone else with me. I had asked Caitlin to join me tonight. She had a call at work, and she was just hoping to come and make it with me, so I came up with that reason. And as I mentioned earlier on, this tent, the MSR Lexa 2, I feel is perfect for these conditions. You know, it's still got a bit of wintry look around the back here and behind us, but overall we're in for a stunning morning. Should be an absolute stunner of a sunrise we get. Putting these guy ropes out at the moment, nice and long. Always like to get your tent, your guy ropes long as possible, and it just helps fight off the wind. So I've talked about tents. I would always say my feeling about tents for you personally is going to be to get a combination of a tent that's not going to be massively heavy for you. You know, I'll go back to what we said all along about this is something relating to fitness. I mean, I'm a personal trainer by trade. I own a gym in Moffat, so I very much have the mentality of making sure you're fit to do this, and you're not then putting yourself in danger or putting someone else at danger for coming to rescue you, you know. So if you were to go and buy, say, a Euro hike tent at 6 kilo, for example, you know, thinking that one of them festival tents might do you the job. You know, we've already had it recently with Jamie in his tent in Dromochta. Was that the right choice for the camp? Probably not. He's done a few camps on that tent in previous times, low level ones, but maybe it wasn't the right one for that one. But physically wise, it was fine. So it does very much become a little bit of finding one that you feel is going to suit you in terms of what's on your back and in your bag, and also your size, if it's going to be for just you or you and your partner potentially, and then there's your tent. I'll talk about sleep systems as well. I'll just break it down into 3 things. I've built my sleep system, so let's have a wee quick look in the tent and I'll show you what my sleep system's all about tonight, and we can go from there. So no, we won't be looking at any sleep systems because the files I had for that one actually got corrupted. So I've got a few little short clips to finish off the video with, but the vast majority of what I had left ended up getting corrupted. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to pick those subjects up there. But we had a couple of little shots for the night time, and then I'll get you into the time lapse that I had for the night, and then I'll join you back in a wee second. So after talking about your backpack and your tent, and then I was about to cover the sleep systems, the one of the things that I really wanted to mention, which I felt was really important, was getting your pitch, which goes back to what I talked about with the backpack. You know, going to areas as a walk, or using YouTube channels, using Instagram posts to search out areas of interest to you. Find these areas, walk them if you can, and then take a look at areas you think might be suitable you want to put your tent at, and then, you know, coming back and trying it out. You know, if it's an area that has water, then you might be okay with a water filter. If it's not, bring some water so you know you can boil up a coffee or some food, etc. And another subject I had down to cover was going to be the anticipation of safety and the fear that people have when they come out. You know, a lot of time I hear people or not complaining, but concerned about going on a wild camp and being in danger. There's always inherent risk, of course, but what you're looking for here is trying to find yourself that balanced pitch. You know, if the weather is telling you that there's a storm coming, potentially not go out. You know, if you're in a very, very busy area, is that going to be too risky for people? Is there animals around? You know, you're looking for an area that's going to help you give the best settled experience when you go camping. You know, do you prefer to have a fire, for example? So then you want somewhere where you can light a fire. But please drop me comments. I'd like to know if you're a new backpacker, a new wild camper. Is there anything, other things you'd want to know about? And if you're already a wild camper, please do put some comments in. Things that you think I may have missed out. But for me, Robert, Moth Mountain Adventures, I'm going to say thank you. I'm sorry my video didn't quite work the way it should have worked, but the next one hopefully will make up for it. I'll see you on the next adventure. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye.